Do you want to participate in a live writing workshop? Well, then you're going to want to stick around because today is the live reading and critique show. And we'll be hopping into some stories in just a little bit. We have quite a number of submissions today, so I am super excited. We always have so much fun doing the readings. We're going to be doing one writing sprint first. It'll be about a 20 to 25-minute writing sprint as we kind of let some of the submissions roll in, and then we'll be hopping into the reading and critique show after. So I'm super excited. I'm Kauffman. Welcome to Kauffman Writes. This is the daily creative writing live stream to help give you some writing inspiration and maybe beat procrastination. All right. So do you want your story read today? Send your live story reading and I will accept it. I will add it to the queue of submissions. Right now we have about 8 to 9 submissions. So I'll add it to the list. And depending on timing, if I'm able to get to them, I will be going through as many as I can today. And if I don't get to yours, then we'll add it to next week's. All right, perfect. And there's that email at the bottom if you want to send one of your stories to thecreativeghostwriter@gmail.com. And let me pull up the comments. Hey, what's up, Atomic Elf in the house? Hope you're having a fantastic weekend. Thanks, Atomic. And Joelle, welcome, my friend. We got some fun reading today. And Akio, right at the start. Akio, welcome. Akio, I'm glad to see you in here. I know the time difference is always challenging for you. Welcome, my friends. All right, so, and just so a note, so if you're watching this on the replay, after the live stream ends, I'm actually going to be setting up the chapters. So that way, let's say you get your story read today and you miss part of it, you can actually watch it on the replay and skip to the specific part of the video for your reading that you want. So that way you don't have to go through the whole thing afterwards. All right, perfect. Yeah, beautiful. Yep, send it my way. Either we'll get to it today or I'll add it to next weekend's, depending on timing, Joelle. I would love to read some of your work. All right, and I'm going to hop straight into our writing sprint. So because it's our Saturday show, instead of doing the 2 writing sprints like normal, I'm going to be doing 1 writing sprint. Now, if you've been sticking along with me so far, you know, last Scarecrow is getting close to the midpoint. So I'm eager to do it. Let me throw up my screen. There we go. So I got the 25-minute writing sprint. And then, of course, let me throw up my music. And, of course, we got our music playlist by our very own Atomic Elf, which I'm naming it the Atomic Elf playlist. Maybe the Atomic Elf remix. I'm kind of liking that. So let's say it's been a long week. Feel free to just sit back, chill with the music, and read along if you don't feel like getting some writing done now. And I'll write vicariously for the both of us. All right, I got the music up. Let me make sure I got my banner. Perfect. All right, 25 minutes on the clock. I'm here at Last Scarecrow. If you've been watching so far, our heroes are trapped in a prison. They are rescuing the last Scarecrow and all these crazy animals. We have the Scarecrow with all the animal prisoners, very badly beaten up from their last encounter. And then we have Pebble, the pixie, just rescued them. And then Crow is facing off against the Tiger King. So let's see if we can get closer to the midpoint. We're almost there. All right, 25 minutes on the clock, and let's write. All right. Perfect. I know I went a little over that time, but I could tell that I was near the end of that little section. Oh, all right. I'm feeling so great. As a writer, when we don't like that. So, as a writer, when you're at that like end of a book or end of a chapter and you're like, you just have to write, you have to get it. Oh, and I did not know what was going to happen with that section. And I realized once I reintroduced Audie, the leading otter, I'm like, the otter is literally like a showman. Like I was like, that's literally perfect. She's kind of like the lighthearted comedic showman. Scarecrow needs some Tums. I'm like, why is the Scarecrow sick? Well, maybe because he just witnessed a bunch of animals being killed and he nearly died. Or maybe it's something else. Ooh. I guess I'll just have to wait and find out. The midpoint I'll probably get there tomorrow. I'll do a longer writing session tomorrow because I'm actually really eager to write that scene. So stay tuned tomorrow. Story time. Okay, so let's move right along. So, all right, so it's time for our live reading and critique show. So, do you want your story read? Send an excerpt. I say a 1 to 5, could be 7-page excerpt, double spaced, to thecreativeghostwriter@gmail.com, and I will add it to the queue. All right. So let me check my email real fast. I want to make sure. And Joelle, some creator broke. Awesome. I just got your email. I saw a little excerpt of your work. I'll add it to the queue, and if we have time, we'll absolutely get to it, depending on timing. All right. So I'm excited. Are you excited? Oh, I love doing these readings. So let me first set up. All right, so let me get this set up first. Now, bear with me just a moment. So, I'm trying a couple new things this week in terms of my formatting, in terms of the structure, and in terms of the timing to make the show, to make the readings and the critiques just feel as smooth of an experience as possible. So, I'm going to go into what the structure and the format is of this, and I encourage you to come to comment, join along, and enjoy the entertainment. All right, so I have to change positions here. All right, bear with me just a second while I set up the first story. So our first reading today is going to be by Kang. I want to make sure I'm saying your name right. Kang Min Rin. It's Nemesis by Kang Min Rin. All right, perfect. And I got it set up on my end. All right, awesome. So before I hop into that first story, I'm going to be trying something new. So two of the reasons that I'm doing this show is one, I want to give back to the community because I've been a writer all my life. I know what it's like to be a broke writer, and I know what it's like to want your excerpt read, your story read, and you're just like, you're not in a good place to either pay for it or you're working on a place and it's just you're not in the right place yet. So I'm going to be doing these free readings now until the foreseeable future every Saturday to help the community. And then also because I enjoy doing the readings themselves, it caters to my acting background. So I have way too much fun doing the readings. So there's that. There's the selfish reason is I love doing the readings. However, so I'm going to be trying this new thing. While I am doing the readings for free, I wanted to throw up tipping. So if you're getting any value out of the show, the writing sprints, or any of the readings today, feel free to send me a tip. So what I'm doing is I'm throwing up a tipping feature. Now, I can't incorporate it yet through through YouTube because I don't have enough subscribers. I'm basically adding it as an option. If you want to throw me a tip, on either Venmo and PayPal. So I have it checked as The Creative Ghost. And I'm going to edit this as the banner. Awesome. And totally no pressure. So this really helps me out because I'm going to keep doing this as a free thing. But let's say you hear a reading or you hear a critique and you really like it. Tips are appreciated. And that will help me out as I continue to trying to build up this new writing business. So thank you. Thank you. All right. So with that out of the way, let's hop into our live story readings and critiques. Wonderful. So let me first throw up the guidelines. So I have 3 guidelines when doing these readings and critiques. First off, in terms of the submission process, I start accepting submissions right after the previous Saturday's live stream. Now, when I go through the readings or when I receive the submissions, I put these submissions in queue based on based on when I receive them. So the sooner you send me a submission, the sooner it will be up in the queue for the following week. As I'm looking at my list right now, I believe I have about 8 to 9 of them. So yeah, the sooner you send them, the easier I'm able to get you at the top during the reading. So there's that process. You can always send it to thecreativeghostwriter@gmail.com. I'm going to be doing all of the readings in about 20-minute intervals between doing the reading and the critique. So that way I can have enough time to get through everyone. And let's say that you're listening to the reading and there's something that stands out, or you hear one of the things about the critique that you're like, I agree with that. Don't be afraid to drop a comment. Share your opinion and share the things that you like and the things that worked. So I definitely encourage you to join the conversation. All right. So we got Kang Min Rin. I have you right here on deck. And it looks like I have you set up here. Perfect. We're going to add you back to the stage. Beautiful. So Kang, if you're here in the live stream, just say something in the chat so I know that you're here. Okay, so I got this one, Kingman Rin, and you are all set up. I've set up the cute 20-minute timer so that way I can make sure that I'm staying on track as I'm doing the readings and the critiques. I want to make sure that I can give everyone ample time. All right. And perfect. So I got submission number 1, Nemesis by Kang Min Rin. All right. And 20 minutes on the clock. And let's do it. Are you sure you don't need to wear silk clothes? Geo handed in Hyuk his clothes. Why do I need silk clothes for a prison guard job? In Hyuk replied, taking the clothes after finishing washing up, dressed in pants. What happened to your hand? In Hyuk noticed Geo's hand covered in a bandage. I got hurt cutting wood. Jiang Hui, uncle bandaged me. Now, it's okay, Jiho explained. In Hyuk examined Geo's hand. Jiang Hui, uncle returned? Yes, pay him a visit sometime, Geo suggested. In Hyuk nodded. And left, gripping his sword. He took a deep breath, suppressing nervousness, and entered the prison gate where other guards had already gathered. He greeted the officer and joined the line. After a while, another officer with short brown hair and a black uniform emerged from the inspection room with black uniforms. Wear them, change in that room, hang your clothes there, and retrieve them after your shift, the officer instructed. Yes, they responded in unison. As the officer turned to leave, he remembered. I'm Sun Gu. If you have anything to inform, come to me. Yes, they all replied simultaneously. As in Hyuk changed into his uniform alongside the other guards. Someone commented, "Owie! You have a great body. You should have taken that test for commanders next week," remarked a guard with long straight hair and sharp features. Ignoring the comment, In Hyuk stayed silent, swiftly changing into his clothes. I'm Gi-ang. What's your name? Gi-ang asked with a bright smile, undeterred by In-hyuk's cold shoulder. Ji-hung, replied In-hyuk as he emerged, sword in hand, having completed the attire adjustment. Gi-young, impressed, turned to the other guards, saying, "Isn't he so cool? Just look at his face." However, a stern look from one guard prompted a hushed response. "Aren't you talking too much?" The guards assembled, with Gi-young being the last due to a slower pace. "Come quickly," the officer yelled. I don't have that much free time." Gi-young rushed outside, leaving his clothes in disarray. The officer briefed them on their duty, pointing out the prison cells they were to guard. Gi-young and In-hyuk were assigned to the same cell, with night shifts stretching 24 hours on their first day to test their stamina. At the dawn of the next morning, Gi-young, unnoticed by others, grimaced. "Ah, my legs ache from standing all day." He glanced at In-hyuk, steadfast in his position. "Wah! Are you made of iron or what?" In-hyuk replied, gaze fixed ahead. "Don't talk. We should maintain silence on duty." Gi-young shot him a sulky look. As morning unfolded, fellow guards relieved their shift. Gi-young and In-hyuk proceeded to change their clothes. "Finally, we can go home," Gi-young exclaimed, then turned to In-hyuk. "Where do you live? Are you married?" In-hyuk remained expressionless and silent. Exiting, Gi-young hurriedly followed. "I live in Saba. My father works as a vendor. I aspire to be a warrior in the war, but my physique isn't that great," Gi-young shared as they walked. At a forked road, In-hyuk halted and inquired, "Which way will you go?" "This way," Gi-young pointed, elated that In-hyuk was engaging in conversation. Expressionless, In-hyuk uttered, "Go safely," and headed in the opposite direction. In-hyuk felt relieved they didn't share the same path, while Gi-young couldn't shake off the sadness. On In-hyuk's second day at work, he and Gi-young were guarding the cells. A senior eunuch in his 60s, adorned with many gem rings and wearing a eunuch gat with a decree in hand. He ordered all the guards, including Geo, to open the basement cell and release the prisoners. In-hyuk was shocked to find women, teenagers, and elderly individuals in the basement, leading him to wonder why they were imprisoned there. They escorted the prisoners through the forest, following the eunuch, who sat in a palanquin carried by guards. The eunuch abruptly halted in the heart of the forest, a secluded spot. In-hyuk surveyed their surroundings, questioning the choice of the stopping point. "Where are we?" Gi-young whispered in Hyuk's ear. The eunuch, displaying the decree without unfolding it, stated, "By the king's order, we must execute trespassers," instructing the guards to carry out the grim command. In Hyuk's eyes welled up with tears. Sadness, coupled with shock, hit him hard. He froze at Eunuch's order. "They are just destitute souls searching for refuge, with nowhere to call home. They pose no threat to a government affair, so why are you taking their lives?" In-hyuk wanted to shout and question the eunuch, but as he was deep in thoughts of stopping this merciless act, the prison guards unsheathed their swords, unleashing a brutal onslaught. Inadvertently, In-hyuk took a step towards them, his visage mirroring the agony of witnessing such brutality. Gi-young swiftly seized him, shielding the gruesome scene, and whispered, "Do you want to die?" Observing In-hyuk's distressed expression, Gi-young surmised, he must be new to this place, recognizing that, unlike himself, In-hyuk was experiencing this horror for the first time. Raised with the principle of non involvement, Gi-young had learned from childhood not to entangle himself in any situation, regardless of the circumstances. After killing them, the guards began digging the ground, burying the bodies in silence. In-hyuk stood motionless, watching the macabre scene unfold in the darkness, his tears hidden from view. Unnoticed, Gi-young fretted, fearing In-hyuk might act recklessly. Turning towards the eunuch, In-hyuk scrutinized his face, attempting to discern his intentions. Once everything was concluded, the eunuch handed a decree to In-hyuk, commanding, "Burn it!" In response, In-hyuk stared at him with disgust, but no one noticed in the darkness. It was dawn. The officer said to In-hyuk and Gi-young, "You two are dismissed." In-hyuk and Gi-young made their way home, the decree still clutched in In-hyuk's hand. As they walked, Gi-young glanced at In-hyuk's face. Don't get involved in anything like that. I'm not scolding you. I'm saying this out of concern. Gi-young advised before continuing toward his home, leaving In-hyuk to walk slowly. In-hyuk continued, each step weak and slow. After a while, he gazed at the decree and unfolded it. Considering that trespassing without any purpose is not a grave sin, and the trespassers have already been severely punished, they are ordered to be freed without any fine. The words on the decree revealed. Overwhelmed with emotion, In-hyuk couldn't contain himself any longer. He sank down, leaning against a tree, and began to wail loudly. Anguish and anger fueled his cries as he pounded the ground in frustration. Why? Why? They don't deserve to die like that! In-hyuk came back home, went to bed, and covered himself under the blanket. Gio asked upon seeing this, "Aren't you going to eat? Eat before you go to sleep." I'm not hungry, mumbled In-hyuk. Gio thought he must be tired and let him be. The whole day passed, but In-hyuk didn't get up from his bed. Gio exclaimed, "In-hyuk, eat something, it's already dark outside." Upon this, In-hyuk rose and took his sword. Gio grabbed his hand as he was going out. Gio questioned, "Are you not going to eat something?" I have a headache. "I will eat later," replied In-hyuk in a solemn voice and came out. As In-hyuk and Gi-young were guarding the prison, Gi-young looked at In-hyuk's pale face. He wouldn't last that long. He wouldn't last long, thought Gi-young. Although he was affected by what happened and remained silent all the time, he knew how to shake off things. Gi-young kept looking at In-hyuk silently as they walked home after their shift, but that was not just for one day. It took weeks for In-hyuk to feel better. "You look better today," said Gi-young, smiling at In-hyuk. In-hyuk looked at him and smiled. Gi-young felt so warmed by his smile. It was the first time Gi-young saw him smiling, but it was quite a short smile. He will get used to it, thought Gi-young as he sighed. After finishing their shift, In-hyuk strolled towards the forest. Gi-young inquired, "Aren't you heading home?" In-hyuk replied, "I'm meeting a friend today." Gi-young nodded. "All right, take care." In-hyuk reached the spot where prisoners were buried. He settled beneath a tree, closing his eyes, and remaining there for an extended period. Later, he made his way to the Dao tea house, observing the patrons. A disheveled teenager, appearing around 15, sat alone. I don't I don't need another worker, the owner insisted to the boy, offering In-hyuk tea. Convinced the boy was perfect for the job, In-hyuk rose and joined his table. "How about working for me?" he proposed. The boy chuckled at In-hyuk's attire. In response, In-hyuk presented a pouch of coins. As the boy opened it, his eyes widened at the substantial amount. Determined, the boy declared, "Yes, I'll do whatever it takes." "Whatever you ask." Whew. All right, and reading. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Let me pull this back up. Awesome. So first off, let me throw up comments. Kangman, thank you so much for submitting that excerpt. That was definitely really cool to read. I think one of the things that I really enjoyed about it was the action. I think the plot was actually my favorite. So you have, let's see, I want to make sure I get it. You have In-hyuk, and then his friend, what was his name? Gi-young. So In-hyuk and Gi-young, you have these two characters as their prison guards, and essentially they're witnessing this sheer brutality by this eunuch, kind of like leader guard. It kind of comes across as more like a royal figure, as they're basically commanded to slaughter all these innocent prisoners. And I think that's actually what is really, really cool. I think the plot itself is actually very, very engaging. And I think there's a couple opportunities where we can kind of tighten it up and make the plot stand out just a little bit more. It's actually very ironic that you did a prison thing. I was like, of course, I'm like just talking about prisoners in my last story, Last Scarecrow. So So that was actually cool. But yeah, so the plot was actually very, very cool. I would say that was my absolute favorite part of this. I think when I look at my critiquing guidelines, so plot or narrative worked out very well. I would say the world building is going in the right direction. I think you have this kind of prison environment, and then you have all these guards. It sounds like all of the guards are on top of their jobs, they're like normal guards, except for In Hyuk, who is this like has a very like high sense of morality, doesn't want to, can't, what's the right word? Can't deal with like the morality that it takes to be a guard in this type of environment. But I would say that what we want to do. So I have a couple suggestions for you. Suggestion number one. Let's see. So I have some things for structure and some things for character. So first off, I always like to focus on character development because if there's one thing that we connect with as writers, readers, and just people in general, it's the characters. Now, I actually liked In Hyuk's character, and actually, I really liked In Hyuk and his friend Gi-young. So I actually liked both of them. I think my biggest challenge was I didn't really have a clear picture on who they were. Now, because you sent an excerpt, this could have just started in the middle of the story, and we could have actually missed out on all of the character setup. Regardless, if just based on this excerpt alone, what I would have done is I would include some more descriptions during during this early section in terms of what does Inhyuk and what does Gyeong, like what do they look like? I want to just get a slightly better idea. Are you sure you don't need to wear silk clothes? Because they do touch upon the clothes through the dialogue, which is good because they're touching upon the prison guard uniform, which that was fine. I want to get a better sense of like what's special, what makes Inhyuk stand out. Does he have like one defining feature or trait that defines him? I think Inhyuk's morality is his defining trait as a character. I wanted to get a little bit more description about who Inhyuk is and what his beliefs are a little earlier on. And that can always be expressed through like interiority. Like Inhyuk, like when Jiho mentioned the prison clothes, and Hyuk thought, you know, what's it going to be like? What's it going to be like being a prisoner? I always have a high sense of morals and I always believe in saving people. And I'm doing this because this is the right thing to do. I'd also be curious to learn a little bit about In Hyuk's backstory. Why does he have this high sense of morals? Why did he have parents who were very like high honor and they like ingrained into him that to treat people with kindness and belief and like saving people? Or did somebody he knows died, or did somebody he knew died? You can go any number of routes with it, but that helps to better establish your character, so that way the actions feel, I want to say the actions don't feel believable, but it makes it easier to engage the reader, and then they get hooked in and they want to be like, oh yeah, I like this character because they talked about the backstory, and the backstory was cool. And then when the action happens, that draws me in. So I would definitely include some more descriptions a little earlier on. I would add some interiority. Let's see what else. And I would say the same with that Gyeong as well. I really like Gyeong. He's kind of like that. He's like the experienced, stern, kind of caring friend. And I wanted to get a little bit more of Gyeong's background so I could better like relate with them and understand like what was it about Gyeong that made him connect with In Hyuk, because I actually think Young's a cool like friend character. I think that actually works well. You do a lot of your storytelling through dialogue, which can work. What I recommend is adding a little more description. So in the first couple pages, your dialogue, it's a little dialogue heavy, which can be fine. It can work, but because we don't have too much of a sense of the characters, I would alternate a little more description. So I would do dialogue, description, dialogue, description, and I'd add a little bit more. Like, you do a good job here, right? And he like replied, taking the clothes after finishing washing up, dressed in pants. And then what does Inhyuk think about this? Adding some type of interiority or description and doing that a little bit more because it pulls us deeper into the world of the story. So that would be the biggest thing I'd add for description, and I think that will really tune up the beginning of the story and make it a little more engaging. I got engaged into it once you got to that prisoner scene with the eunuch, and I was like, wow, I'm like, I want to know what's happening. How many times do you think of like a eunuch who's like in charge and is like this evil dude, right? I think of eunuchs and I think of Game of Thrones. So that I feel like that's unique. Let's see. And then from a structure standpoint, now I kind of combine structure and grammar into one. For structure, I'm going to actually speak to your dialogue and speech tags. So let's see. You use a lot of dialogue tags, which is basically a dialogue and then the character said. You do want to use a lot of let me rephrase. You do want to use a good number of dialogue tags so people are clear, so your reader is clear on who's speaking and who said what. Based on this initial reading, I would say that sometimes you have a little too many dialogue tags and it can easily pull a reader out of the story. Let's see, let me find a good example of this. I know I did a highlight. Yes. So sometimes dialogue tags are necessary. But in this instance, he will get used to it. Oh, and by the way, if it's a thought, no quotations. You would italicize this. So then it would look like actually, you wouldn't even need italicize. You could just say he will get used to it, thought Jiang as he sighed. Because this is assumed interiority. Like we're already in this is Jiang's point of view right now, so this is assumed. So quotes aren't necessary. Now, if you really want to highlight it, then you could italicize it if you really want it to stand out. But in terms of these speech tags, like these speech tags, after finishing their shift, and he strolled towards the forest, Yang inquired, "Aren't you heading home?" And then this isn't even necessary because we know that it's just the two of them. So then you could do, "I'm meeting a friend today." Yang inquired, "Aren't you heading home?" "I'm meeting a friend today." And then if you want, you could add in Hyuk doing some sort of description. "I'm meeting a friend today." In Hyuk said happily as he fidgeted with his guard uniform. He wondered how guards were able to deal with the consequences of hurting people. Right. So that's just an example of like what I would do if I was working on this or if I was editing this. What I've done is I have added the speech tag, but I've used the speech tag to include additional action and then interiority to give background. So that's usually instances where I think speech tags work really well. But if it just like he said this, she said this, he said this, then it ends up becoming repetitive. And if something ever starts becoming repetitive, it increases the chances of your reader tuning out. And we don't want your reader to tune out. I want people to read your story. So those would be my two recommendations. Yeah. Good luck with your continued story. And that's all that I got for you today. Kang Minrin. I want to make sure that I said that correctly. I appreciate you. Thank you. Awesome. All right. So excellent. That was perfecto. Thank you. Thank you. And I'm going to queue up. Let's see. Who do I have on deck? Let's see. Let me throw up the next banner. Stephanie Pilz. I got your story up next. So while I set that up, let me go dig into the comments. Let's see. Mud Speaks vlog and podcast. Hey, Mud Speaks, welcome. Thanks for dropping by. I hope you're enjoying the readings. Mud Speaks. I like that your name is vlog and podcast. So that's actually very clear what you're doing. That's actually kind of smart from a YouTube name. Very clever. Let's see. Stories by Mudzerker. How's it going? Glad to be here with you. Yeah, welcome to the chat, Mudzerker. That's awesome. I like that your name starts with stories as well. That's another actually very clever like story name to know that you're a storyteller. I actually like that. Welcome, welcome. I'm curious to know what types of stories that you write. I always like whenever I have new writers in here, I'm like, what type of storyteller are you? On average, we tend to get a lot of, I want to say I get a mix of fantasy, thriller, and sci-fi. Those tend to be the three predominant ones. And clearly I get a good deal of like nonfiction-ish as well. And hey, welcome, Sean. Welcome, welcome. Totally no worries on being late. I think I got your story queued up in a couple ones. So your script is coming up soon, my man. Awesome and perfect. Go ahead and check it out. Awesome. Yeah, I'll check your channel out a little later. Definitely feel free to message me. Let's see my email. Where's my email? Yeah, so if you want a story or if you just want to chat a little bit, because I know YouTube we can't. There's not like a DM feature. You can always email me. Absolutely. All right, so let me throw up once again, Stephanie. Stephanie, if you're here, Stephanie, say something in the chat. Let me know that you're here. Welcome, welcome. So, awesome. Now I know, Stephanie, I know when submitting your story, part of your concern, and this is actually uh, very honest concern. Your concern, you're like, is the story going to be too intense for a live reading? Now, this was the first one where like I really had to think about it. I'm like, all right, do I have a limit on the genre and the type of readings that I will go through? Is there something that's too far that I won't be able to read and critique? Right now, no. I think the only exception I probably won't be able to do will probably be erotica. I think that's probably the only genre that would get my that might give the live stream some problems. But I think anything outside of that. Now, in the future, if I ever do any type of like sponsorships or once I do anything that involves other brands, that might change in the future. But for now, I don't have any limits on genre specific fiction. So any and all genres are welcome. I feel confident that I can give feedback for any type of genre and most types of formats, whether there's novels, short stories, or scripts, poetry as well, because I look at it less from the genre and I look at it more from the elements of creative writing, the greater umbrella. What's my safe word? I was like, I don't think I have a safe word. I'm in trouble. Safe word. Creative writing. No, wait, that's not a good safe word. By the way, this is Andrew. I submitted. Hey, oh, awesome, Andrew. That's really cool. Thanks for the heads up, Andrew. I know I got your story on deck in a couple as well. All right, awesome. So I got Stephanie's queued up. So I guess what I'll do is I'll just do a disclaimer. Stephanie's story is going to be a little bit more intense, so just beware. All right. And let me throw this up. All right. So we got this was the second submission, to be the hunter or to be the hunted. All right. So we did an excerpt from Stephanie's last week, and we got the little like pre-intro in the story when like before anything crazy happens. And I think this is going to be a little bit farther into the story, it sounds like, with our back alley killer. All right, so let me get into this and let me reset the timer. Make sure y'all can see. Perfect. All right. Oh, by the way, if I'm highlighting your work, I forgot to add this sooner. It's more for my notes, so I know that I can go back and respond to it. So highlighting is not a bad thing. All right. To be the hunter or to be the hunted by Stephanie Pilz. Back alley killer. Age 14, charming young man, 5 foot 5 inches, small for his age, but strong, tan skin, blue eyes, short brown hair, stalking, and the first kill. Year 1992. Year 1992. I don't know why I started following her, especially at night when she was playing manhunt with the other neighborhood kids. I was just drawn to her. Something about her was calling to me, pulling me to her as I watched her. I noticed how some guys older would also be staring at her inappropriately, and the looks they gave her set my blood on fire. I mean, how dare they look at my kitten like that? She was mine, not theirs. I decided to make it my mission to make sure none of these predators followed her home and got her alone. I think the only guy her age that I was okay with being around her was her friend, Azazel. I could see that the two of us were alike, and he'd keep her safe. If I was not around, I never saw him as a threat because he and my kitten had a brother sister kind of relationship. As my obsession with my kitten increased, so did the number of bad men I noticed watching her as well. I didn't know why my town allowed these sexual predators to live here. They probably saw my kitten as an easy target, but I could see the darkness that lurked inside her. One day soon, I was planning to test how far I could push her and have her come back stronger than before. I knew it was a matter of time until one of these predators would go after my kitten. I saw him from the shadows almost every night, or I watched as he would follow her from school. He didn't get close to her to make me worry just yet. I think he was just planning how he was going to do it, or taking notes, or where she went, and what my kitten did every day. When this predator was at work one day, I broke into his house to see what plans he had made for my kitten. I went through his whole office, not really finding anything, until I found a locked drawer on his desk. I made quick work with the drawer with a lockpick that I had. When I opened it, I found that notebook I've seen him carrying. Part of me knew what I was going to find, and I was right. He made so many notes about my kitten. I turned the page. I saw he had written down a detailed plan about when he was planning to kidnap my kitten. My whole body burned with anger because he also wrote down everything he planned to do to her. Every word made me think about how much I'm going to enjoy killing him. I've never killed anyone before, but I planned to make him my first. I knew that he was going to come home first before going after my kitten. So I just sat in his office chair, waiting for him to get home. I wanted to throw him off, and I figured finding me in his house would do just like. And I'd play him until I got the chance to end him. And I'm sure he'd find me just as appealing as my kitten, judging by his taste in porn. I was sitting in his office for about 3 hours as I planned out what I was going to say when he finds me in his house. I just had a hope that he'd take the bait and didn't see me as a threat until I was ready to strike. When I heard the front door open, I moved my feet onto his desk and I closed my eyes, waiting for him to come into the office. I heard him walk into the room. I don't know if he noticed me right away. I could feel his eyes on me as he walked closer to me. I felt him stroke my face, and I think he was looking for any reaction of me being awake. I kept my eyes closed, and then I felt him move his hand to my thigh. I stayed as still as I could, thinking that it's giving me more of a reason to kill you, fucker. Well, well, aren't you such a beautiful specimen? I was planning on spending my night with a pretty little lamb, but since you're all right here, I'll have the lamb another night. I just have to wonder who left you here unconscious waiting for me, I heard him saying. Who said I was unconscious? I said, and then I kicked him in the head. I cursed after that because I didn't kick him hard enough, and he got back up faster than I thought he would. Before I could get out of the chair, he grabbed me and threw me against the desk. He grabbed both of my hands and held them above me with one hand. I looked back at him, and it looked like he was grabbing something out of pocket. Hold still for me, sunshine. It's nap time, he told me, and I saw a needle in his hand, and I knew I had fucked up. I struggled against him, but he had a strong grip on me. I felt the needle go into my neck, and then there was just darkness. When I came to, I could tell I was in a basement and that I was chained up and I was also naked. The chains were holding me so tight, and I felt metal digging into my wrists. Damn, I was really fucked, I thought, but I was sure I'd get out of this, and next time I'd have to do better planning. I see you're awake now. So tell me, sunshine, what was your plan? Did you really think you could get away from me, especially after you stayed so still as I touched you? Admit it, you want this. You want me to have you, he said as he walked up to me. I didn't say anything. I wanted him to come closer, and maybe I could get him to unchain me if I play along with his sick game. Whew, man, that was intense. First off, Stephanie, let me just say, let me throw this up. You did a really good job of setting up this our anti-hero. I love anti-heroes. For any of you who are watching, this excerpt reminded me 100% of the TV show You. If anybody else has seen You, this reminded me of the protagonist Joe, like almost nearly identically, just with a lot of the dialogue, description, the types of things he would say. Very close. By the way, very good show if you like the anti-hero arc. It is very, 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 let me add this, extremely difficult to write an anti-hero who is either a serial killer or is a killer, and in this instance is a stalker, but then make the audience or the reader like them. So I just want to say that first off, that's very difficult to do. And Stephanie, I felt like you did a really good job of making this character likable. So great work on that. That's like the first thing that I need to throw out because this is a hard one to weave. So let's go into as I got something in my eye. All right, so let's go into the details. I'm like trying to like see the screen over here. Okay, so I think what I really like, you did such a good job of doing the setup, right? And the fact that he gives her the name of Kitten and then referring to Azazel is just such a great setup. It defines exactly who he is. It defines what he wants. It defines who he is as a stalker. It defines his obsessive nature with Kitten. And I think by using Azazel as a foil, being like, okay, I'm fine with him because he's not a lover. He's a best friend. I'm almost thinking like he's like a gay best friend almost, but I know it's not a thing. But clearly, he is not threatened by Azazel. Let's see. I think if I were to add anything, and maybe this was intentional, but does he have a name? And I think you intentionally withheld the name because you wanted it to create this mystery. That's fine, actually. I'm not necessarily opposed to that. I'm not opposed to that at all. Don't know why. So yeah, I would say 100% strength of this is your character development. Hands down, character development for the win. As my obsession with Kitten increases, so do the number of bad men I know it. Yep. And this, like, his character is just well defined. I'm trying to think of if there's opportunities, but I think you just did a good job of setting him up. I don't think I have. She was mine, not theirs. So to make it my mission. I think I'm good with that. These. And it's interesting, and like this is what works so well. And if you're watching, if you're here on the live stream, what works, and this is one of the reasons that makes his character stand out. I didn't know why my town allowed these sexual predators to live here. He himself is a predator, but by saying that, it shows either his naivety and it shows an innocence, right? So by posing other things as more dangerous, by posing other things as more dangerous, he himself is viewing himself, even though he's stalking, he himself is viewed as probably like a lover, as a warrior, as a protector. And by placing the sexual predators, which sexual predators, bad. By placing something that is of a worse nature, it makes us want to like him a little bit more because he hasn't done anything yet that we as the reader will disagree with. So I think that actually very, very good job. And I just want to point out, I probably saw a kitten. Yep. I knew it was a matter of time. I felt bad. Let's see, Stephanie. He's my favorite character in the whole book, and I feel bad about things I put him through. Yes, he has a name, but I didn't. Yep. Okay, cool. I had a feeling that was the case then. Yeah, I'm fine with it. I think it works. I think it absolutely works to keep him nameless. If I were guessing this as a reader, my guess would be that you're going to reveal his name. Well, yeah, two options. Either you never reveal his name and make that the thing, or you reveal his name far later on in the story, probably when he interacts with Kitten, when he actually like interacts and talks with her. So there was that. Let's see, didn't get close to her. I knew it, and I saw them from almost as I watched. Didn't get closer to make me worry just yet. I think I was just planning how it's going. Stephanie, something that you could add, and this would actually build up the suspense a little bit more around this area. While we're still doing the setup, but before he interacts with the main bad guy right now, it might be interesting to build tension if you add him nearly stopping one of these like supposed predators, right? So I would call this a false alarm moment of like he's watching and thinks like, oh, this guy's going to like attack her, but really the guy's just doing something like mundane. Like the guy's just like tripping and he picked up her phone because she dropped it or something like that. But he himself is like, this guy's going to attack her. He steps out to go target him, but then he's like, he has to pull back. And I think he could do it. I think it would help further build the tension and the suspense for this next bad guy. But that's just a random suggestion. I think any type of suspense would elevate him as a savior. I think if you do something that makes him come across that he's saving her from something, even if he's not actually saving her, but the sense that the reader feels like, oh, he's going to save her, I think that will make us like him even more, and it will push his character from incredible to even more incredible. Food for thought. Subjective suggestion. Yep. Mm-hmm. Let's see. And then this gets into the meat when this predator was at work, working in his house. I think with the predator, because we keep him nameless, I would recommend giving the predator a name, unless you did it later on. You do a good job of setting up like who the predator is. And I completely got the idea when he is doing like the analysis and he's breaking into his place and he's kind of doing the deep dive, his prep work. And you can tell like this is a thing that he does. But I would give the predator a name, so it makes it a little clearer to hate who this predator is. Find mid quick work. Notebook. Yep, this is good. I saw you written down a detailed plan about when he was planning to kidnap my kitten. I would almost make it harder for him to find the note. If I am a predator and I'm planning on doing something evil, I'm probably not just going to leave it on a notepad in my desk. So I would say try to make it a little harder to find would be my recommendation. It would also help show that your protector character is clever and that he has to do something, like he hits the side of the desk and it falls out of a secret slot, something like to that effect. Let's see, we find out the name of the predator in the next chapter, then we learn more information about said person in the next book. That just okay, so it's another intentional. Okay, name of the predator. Okay, I see where you're going at. I think with that, then I could go either way on that. Once again, that'd be a subjective. The naming is a subjective thing on my part. Predator, every maybe word, because he views the evil character as a predator. That's going to come home. Taste in porn. And I'd play him until I got the chance to end him. That was just misspelling, I imagined. The chance to end him, and I'm sure he'd find me just as appealing as my kitten. Judging be his taste in porn. Great description. Great description. Absolutely unique description, right? I highlighted it because I was like, you could even add an additional description here of judging be his taste in porn. Like what type of porn is this guy looking at? Is this guy like BDSM? Is this guy like kink? Like there's so many types out there, and that could give it a little more description about who this predator is. And you could also use that to even make us hate this predator even more. This is good. He's building up. He's waiting. This is like the strike. I kept my eyes closed, then I felt him move his hand to my thigh. You know, it was actually interesting with gender. I had assumed, and this was on me. I'd assumed so that the protector is a male, but then when I was reading this description, I'm like, is the protector a female? I was like, no. But then the way that made me think, I'm like, well, maybe it's because I'm like thinking of a preconceived notion of the predator is male preying on a female character, but a male predator can prey on a male character just as much. And I actually think I like that. If that's find out what he did, everybody will hate him. But yeah, I think that was interesting. Okay, and then I felt him move his hand to my thigh. Stayed as still as I could. So the predator isn't. The predator was planning on striking out at the kitten, but now this predator is going after the protector, because the protector's clearly up in a space. And this is a question for you, is the predator not does the predator target both genders? Is there some sort of like thing to his madness? Because I think that might give a little bit more clarity. Since he was going after kitten, I had assumed he was only preying on females, but since he's now preying and he's like groping the protector. Okay, cool. Then what I would do is, because we're so used, just readers, we're so used to thinking of male predator going after female victim, which is fine. I actually like that you subvert expectations. That's different. I would then use the porn, use this porn comment or some sort of comment to indicate that he's into both. Gender's not a thing, or he's into both genders, or just something to better clarify for the reader. But once again, that's another subjective opinion. I kept my eyes closed. Well, aren't you such a beautiful specimen? I was planning on spending a night. I would actually have the predator give him another name, right? So if the predator refers to the kitten as Lamb, then what would the predator call him? And maybe that could be like some sort of like masculine animal name. Like, I just have to wonder who left you here, my wolf in sheep's clothing, or my sheep, or something like that. And I actually think that would help with the gender identification. Waiting for me. And then I like this. This is the thing. He tries to fight back. This makes sense. And held him above. I looked back, and it looked like he was grabbing something out of his pocket. Yeah. I cursed it because I didn't kick him hard, and I got back up on it. I would, before I could get out of the chair, he grabbed me and threw me against the desk and held him above me with one hand. I looked back at him, and it looked like he was grabbing something out of pocket. So, and I knew I'd fucked up. So he grabbed, because I didn't kick him, and he got back up faster than I thought he would. Before I could get out of the chair, he grabbed me and threw me against the desk. He grabbed both my hands and held them above me with one hand. So if they're both males, is it because the predator is stronger? Is that why? Because I'm assuming that they would have matched strength since they're both males. Maybe that's a preconceived notion, because right now during this fight scene, the predator basically, so protector tries to kick predator, kicks him in the head, really misses and doesn't knock him out. Predator responds by grabbing his head, throwing it against desk. And then he grabs both the protector's hands and holds him. It almost feels like the predator has to do something a little more to knock the protector out. I would almost add another 2 like actions of the protector and the predator going back and forth. And I think that would just add to the action. So it feels like it's even more believable that the predator is stronger. Since we haven't, or since at least based on this excerpt, you haven't set up if the predator is like this masculine, like buff, strong character, or if the protector is a buff, strong character. So I would just do that in the action to further clarify that. So it makes it clear that clearly the protector messed up very, very clearly. And not just by kicking him, not kicking him hard enough in the head, but clearly he took for granted the predator's strength. Or maybe the predator knows kung fu or just something random like that. Let's see. Sean threw up. I found it interesting that the predator called his victim a lamb, yet the stalker called her kitten. They are cut from the same cloth and don't realize it. Yep. Yes, exactly. You know what? I didn't even speak to the lamb portion, but Sean, you are absolutely right. And I think like that's what I love about this story, Stephanie. Like you're once again subverting expectations. Our protector is probably just as bad as the predator, at least up until this point in time, right? Before more is revealed. But because our protector is protecting the kitten and hasn't done anything evil beyond stalking, it makes us want to root for him. And that's a very, very good catch, Sean. I completely agree. I see your wig now. And then this last portion, you could tell it's just more setup for the next part, for the next portion. So very good work, Stephanie. I give you snaps. Very great work. I'm eager to see how much more. Oh, and I missed the spoiler. And this little spoiler, but our protector character was his main target. Please send more. I want to read more. That's actually great. That's a very great twist. I wasn't expecting that. Up until this point, I'm like, he's clearly going after the kitten. I love that. Really great work, Stephanie. Thanks for sending this excerpt in. I hope I did the killer, both the protector and the killer's justice. Oof. All right, so let me throw this up. All right, give me a little stretch break. Awesome. So while I'm setting up for the next reading, by the way, Sean, you're on deck. So Torrent, your script is on deck. Sean's up next. So while I queue up for the next reading, if you found any value from this stream, follow and subscribe. I do this reading critique show every single Saturday on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitch. So follow, subscribe. You'll be alerted when I go live. And I also do weekly writing shorts and writing videos to give you inspiration and help you become a better writer. So yeah, do that. And by the way, if you're enjoying this show, down at the ticker, don't forget to leave a tip. Tips are much appreciated. Venmo and PayPal. Okay, so onwards and upwards. I got Torrent by Sean Spence. And since Sean, I just saw your comment. I know you're here. All right, so I am pulling up. All right. Oh, and let's see. By the way, as I'm setting this screen up, that's right. I got yours as a Google Doc. All right, and I'm just setting up here, and I am remembering this time to turn off Grammarly for this, this session. All right, perfect. Grammarly is for my benefits more than anything else. Awesome. And let me just check my email. I want to make sure I didn't miss any submissions. Joelle. Awesome. Joelle, I saw the rest of your excerpt. Or this one too, your choice. They're very different. I saw that you sent a second one. I'm open to reading either, whatever you'd prefer. When I get to that portion. Awesome. So I'll have that saved. Perfect. So I got Charlene. I got you at the beginning, and then Joelle, I got yours after. Wonderful. So let's get right into the next reading then. Very great work. Yeah, thanks so much. Thanks so much, Andrew. Appreciate it. Oh, I really appreciate that. That's sweet. Thank you so much. I appreciate the shout outs and the sharing. My goal is to connect with as many writers as possible. So that's awesome. Let's see. It should have been. Yes, it is. So Sean, it pulled up as a PDF, and then I think I reopened it through Google Docs because it makes it easier for me to see if I can give me the highlighter. I just want the highlighter more than anything else. Perfect. All right, and then let me throw up this. All right, and then I want to make sure it's big enough for y'all to see. No, it doesn't want to let me do that. All right, that should be fine. I'm like playing around with different fonts. All right, that'll work. Okay, so I got this one pulled up, and we are on Torrent. Let me drop the banner. All right, Torrent by Sean Spence. If you were here on our previous Saturday streams, we've done the two previous excerpts, the first couple pages and then the second section of Sean's play, Torrent, based on a short screenplay by Austin Gorski, screenplay by Sean Spence. So far, we set up a serial killer in the beginning opening montage. And then in the last section, we set up our hero, the down and out, upset, very upset police officer, very little bit of an anger problem, and then his sidekick, the new guy. So let's see who we get to explore with in this section. Exterior Williams' home, day. A car pulls up. Oh, and let me start that. Okay. A car pulls up into the driveway of a craftsman bungalow style home. Rob Williams, a youthful 45, turns off the ignition, while Sarah Williams, 47, a domineering yet caring spouse, exits the car. Sarah Williams, 47, a domineering yet caring spouse, exits the car. Rob pops the trunk as Sarah walks to the back of the car. Sarah begins to pull bags of groceries out of the trunk. Rob exits the car and stares outside the street as Miss Summers struggles to pull her garbage bin out to the curb. Rob, maybe I should go and help her? Sure, I don't need any help at all. I can carry all these in by myself. Go help the deranged old lady. Look at her. She's obviously having a hard time. Rob looks over at Sarah, whose stink eye is familiar to him. He quickly decides to help Sarah and grabs bags from the trunk of the car. Why? Thank you, honey. As Rob grabs the rest of the groceries and shuts the trunk, Sarah watches Miss Summers finally put the bin by the curb. Miss Summers looks up to see the neighbors watching her. Hey, Miss Summers. How are you, my dear? So sorry I couldn't help, but Rob holds up the many bags of groceries in his hands. Miss Summers glances over at Sarah. I understand. Miss Summers turns back up her driveway towards her front entrance of her similar craftsman home. Did you see that? What? That animus looked towards me. I Didn't see anything. Sarah looks at Rob. Again, Rob is not oblivious to this look. Oh, that look there. Oh, that look there. Yeah, I saw that. Great impression, babe. Sarah storms off into the house. Rob sets the groceries down and presses a button on the key to set the car alarm. A shiver runs up his spine, forcing him to turn towards Miss Summers' house. Miss Summers stands motionless on her porch, staring at the Williams house. A fake smile is plastered on her face, accentuating the lines covering it. Rob waves. Miss Summers slowly raises her right arm, her fingers spread apart. Rob waves. Miss Summers slowly raises her right arm, her fingers spread apart, like a beauty pageant contestant who has never won. She waves back awkwardly. Uneasy, Rob quickly picks up the groceries and leaves the driveway, heading inside his home. Interior, police car, day. Nick sits down behind the wheel. Billy stares out the front window of the squad car. Sorry. About Garcia. Was he your partner? Don't. Excuse me? Don't try to bond with me. We aren't friends. You're my trainee, whether I like it or not. Which I don't. That's all. I was just thinking. Jesus Christ, really? Okay. Thank you. Silence. Looks like rain? Okay, I get it. You? Do you? Outside street noise seeps through the vents of the squad car, the only sound for the moment. Billy starts to whistle. Happy birthday. A call from dispatch interrupts the whistling. Car 19? Dispatch. Go ahead, dispatch. I have a possible 1015 at 33025 Bessemer Avenue. Called in by the neighbors. Claims she has video this time. 10-4. We will be there in 5. Neighbors will meet you outside on their porch. Sirens? For a civil disturbance? Joseph fucking Mary. Just sit there and don't touch a goddamn thing. Oh, I love that. That's awesome. That was a short little excerpt. I'm already curious to know how this disturbance breaks out. Ooh, awesome. Yeah, Sean, thanks for sharing that, by the way. That was awesome. I think because I had a sense of Rob and not Rob, because I had a sense of Billy and Nick from last time. It was super easy for me to get into those characters. Awesome. So let's see what I got. So in this section, I feel like we not too much is happening. I could tell with Miss Summers, we're setting her up. We're setting probably up her next kill, which is what my guess is. And then Rob, and then what is it? Billy and Nick. We're continuing there. Fun camaraderie. So let's see what works. Rob Williams, it turns off. Sarah Williams. I think for Rob Williams, just give another thing of description, add an additional adjective on who Rob Williams is. That's my only thing. A youthful 45. What about him? I think it would make it a little easier for a casting director. That's a good question. Let me see if that formatting was Nick. Excuse me. Are you great question on the formatting. How are you formatting it right now? So are you I guess what program? I guess what writing program are you using? That would be my guess or my ask, because it looks like it was fine, I think, up until the Billy and Nick scene when there was just a couple points, and then I could tell this is probably the page number. And then I think here some of the spacing just got mixed up. Final Draft and save as PDF. Yeah, I actually usually use Final Draft as my script excerpt as mine as well. I'm actually kind of curious. I'll pull up. I'm pulling up the actual Final Draft script itself. And like you can see what I have here because I was wondering if it was just on my end on the way that I formatted it. Um, yeah, I see here. So it was probably because I switched over to Google Docs, which is why we got that page formatting messed up with Final Draft. I think what I'll probably do in the future, Sean, is I'll just keep it as a PDF, and then I'll have to make notes. I'll make notes elsewhere. The only reason I switch it is more so I can make notes to remind myself. But this one wasn't too long, so it wasn't that big of a deal. But I'll keep that in mind for next time. Let's see. But regardless, overall, so my thoughts of it, I liked it. Like I said, give an additional description for Rob Williams, even if he's not that big of a character. Youthful 45, blue hat and a beanie. He's likes to look like the young guys, or just something. Sarah Williams 47, a domineering yet caring spouse. So this one's a little clearer, right? But youthful, not as clear. Exit the car. Rob pops the trunk as Sarah walks to the back of the car. Something I would add, because it seems like the entire time Sarah is pissed off at Rob. It kind of seems like she's already upset at Rob. I would I might add just like maybe one or two additional lines of Sarah and Rob having something cute or something uplifting, or maybe like the end of a cute conversation. So it doesn't seem like Sarah's just pissed off at Rob the whole time. That's kind of how it comes across right now. Like Sarah doesn't want him to go help out Miss Summers. So now that like I didn't think about it in the reading, but I'm like, that's right. Miss Summers from the very beginning. I forgot how old Miss Summers won. Oh, she is always. So that was intentional. Okay, perfect. Then if that is the case, Sean, what I would do is I would add some type of a description of Rob trying to be, let's see, maybe I should go and help her. I would add Rob saying something really cute because it sounds like Rob's the one trying to make it work and be like the good guy. I would maybe add him saying something cute to her, being like, "Oh, I love you, babe. The way you do something something," or just some random comment, and her kind of just being like, "Yeah, don't try to suck up to me," or just something to that effect. So it shows that she's not pissed off at him because of something that happened from Miss Summers. Let's see. Atomic Elf is talking about formatting. So Google Docs would be a preferred format, so that you can easily take notes. Yes. Atomic, that's a good call out for formatting. Yes. What I've been doing is I've been moving the most of the writing pieces to a Word format, so that way I can do the editing myself. Clearly, this is probably an opportunity on my part to better structure the way I'm doing it. But I think what I'm going to do is I think Google Docs is just a little easier. And I think the great thing with Google Docs is then the parts that I highlight, then you can take back with you after the reading and the critique. And then you can delete them, keep them, whatever you want. But I think doing that as an editor view would actually be the most beneficial to all y'all. Sean, I know you use Final Draft. I use it too. I'll probably just keep it as a PDF in the future, or what I'll do is I'll just open it up on Final Draft itself. If you send the Final Draft file, that might actually be easy as well. I'm open either way. Let's see. So where were we at, Rob? Yeah, and I think that would just set up their relationship a little bit more because right now it just seems like Sarah's pissed off at Rob about Miss Summers, which makes me think of like, okay, if they've been living next to Miss Summers for a while, did she do something to them? Or is she just creepy old lady next door? Which we know she's got a couple screws loose from the introduction. Let's see. Sure, I don't need any help. Go help the deranged old lady. So like this makes me assume that clearly she's done a lot of creepy shit. But clearly Rob's either oblivious or he just wants to get away from Sarah. That'll be found out soon. Okay, cool. Awesome. So that's just some backstory that we haven't explored yet then. Rob looks over at Sarah, whose stink eye is familiar to him. He quickly decides to help Sarah and grabs bags from the trunk of the car. Let's see what else. Rob grabs the rest of groceries. Sarah Sean, remind me again, how old is Miss Summers? I don't have your other excerpt here. Is she was like 40s or 50s, right? For some reason, this like I don't know why I keep getting like old lady vibes from her. With it's probably because of the garbage can. Like, oh, go help the old lady, but she calls her the deranged old lady. Deranged old lady. Let's see, Miss Summers, how are you, my dear? This is great. Rob clearly has a guilty streak. This is just so creepy. Like, you do a really good job of setting up the suspense in this scene. Summers turns back up her driveway towards her front entrance. Yep. What? That animus. Animus. I want to make sure we're using that correctly. Animus, hostility or ill feeling. That's what I thought. That animus look towards me. That animus look. Something about the sentence structure of that feels a little funky to me. That animus look towards me. Unless that's like unique to her character. I might just consider revising or just rewording this. Let's see, I didn't see anything. Sarah looked at Rob again. Rob is not oblivious to this look. So Rob is an oblivious character, but he's not oblivious to the way Sarah is, which is great. I had fun reading their relationship. Their relationship is funner. Sarah storms off. And then this is creepy. So Rob raises Miss Summer slowly raises her right hand, her fingers spread apart. This took me a second. I would just say reword this. Miss Summer slowly raises her hand, her fingers spread apart. Or I would just add raises her right arm in a waving motion. Because that kind of took me a second. But then I read the second part. I was like, oh, okay, she's doing awkward wave. But that was just small detail from a reader's perspective. Uneasy, Rob picks up the groceries and leaves the driveway. Beauty pageant. You know, something kind of interesting. You could have Rob drop the groceries. It would add a moment of tension here as he tries to wave at her and he drops the groceries and picks them up quickly to head inside. Miss Summers is in her 80s. Oh yeah, okay. She's a crazy old lady. Oh my goodness. I was like, dang, yeah, she is old. Miss Summers is in her 80s. Oof, man. So she's like definitely crazy little old lady. Okay. All right. That oof. All right. I would that crazy old lady. Yeah, so this makes even more sense. And since Miss Summers was introduced in the introduction, the hook, that defining the age isn't important right now. She's kind of like Miss Summers right now comes across as kind of a sweet old lady and then kind of a crazy lunatic. Some Shears leaves the driveway, Nick sits behind the wheel, and then we get to so this is a good tension scene. We get to Billy and Nick. I love their I love their camaraderie. I think of everything I've seen with this script so far, Sean. I think Billy and Nick's relationship is the strongest. Sorry about Garcia. Was he your partner? This makes sense when it came from the previous scene. Excuse me, don't try to bond with me. We aren't friends. Don't try to bond with me. We aren't friends. You're my trainee. Whether I like it or not, which I don't. That's all. I was just thinking, Jesus Christ, really? Yeah, I think Nick's cussing works well for him. I think, no, I mean, but his any use of like profanity works. Okay, thank you. Silence looks like rain. Let me. Don't try to bond with me. I was just thinking, Jesus Christ, really? Okay, thank you. Silence. Looks like rain. Mm-hmm. This section right here, for some reason, was a little confusing. So, Jesus Christ, really? Okay, thank you. Silence. Looks like rain. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, I get it. what does Billy get? So, like, I know that Billy's basically like mumbling because he doesn't like the silence. But he's talking again. I think I just don't understand, what does he get? Is it that okay, I get it. He gets it because Nick doesn't want to talk to him. Yeah, something about for some reason, like I know what you're trying to accomplish, but something about this was a little confusing for some reason. I would say just reword like the looks like rain. Actually, it's more like this part was just a little confusing for some reason. I would say just add looks like rain. Maybe add him trying to talk a little bit more, and then just have him like looks like rain. You could tell he's probably mumbling or ranting on because he doesn't like silence. Looks like rain. Whenever it rains, I get chills. I always get sick. I have a sense for rain. My grandmother's ankle always started shivering whenever rain came by, or just some type of rant that you could actually use for character development. And then him ending saying, like, okay, I get it. Nick, do you? I don't even think it's unnecessary for Nick to respond in this part, though. I think Nick's clearly upset. I would almost have Nick like turn up the radio. I feel like that seems like something that Nick would do if he likes music. I understand it. Nick doesn't want to. Yeah, no, I can tell that. I would just have like Nick turn up the music or something like that, and then the music that would transition to the dispatch. But granted, I do like this happy birthday thing. This happy birthday thing is cute. I thought that was cute. So then I think actually what I would do is I would have him talk and then transition to whistling when Nick doesn't respond. I think that would make it a little cleaner. Call from dispatch, car 19, perfect. And then this is just setting up for the next scene. Billy, sirens. He's like the little kid who wants to press the red button. Okay, yeah, that's what I thought. And I actually I thought that it was a callback, but I couldn't remember from the birthday. But that's really good then. I would absolutely keep that. I like that. Billy just seems like a little kid. I think that's actually kind of funny right now. Yeah, that's all that I got for you, Sean. Once again, I enjoyed reading this section of the script. Please send more. Awesome. And that probably brought us right to the end of time. Thanks again for sending it. I enjoyed reading it. Bravo, bravo. And Sean, the next time you send an excerpt, I'll make sure that I look into the formatting and get the formatting right before the reading. So that way I don't have to deal with the reading portion on my part. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Thanks again for sending it, my man. That was awesome. All right, so let me throw this back up. All right, and then let's see, who do I have on deck? So next we got Andrew. I actually got your story up coming next. Nightfall on the Haunted Highway. All right, so let me bring yours up. And I just need to pull up my email, make sure I didn't miss anything. Perfect. All right, so I got that. Stephanie, I saw I saw the excerpt you sent. Great job on sending it over. Perfect on being early. All right, and then now let me pull up Andrew. Excelente. Awesome. So, by the way, let me just throw this as a shout out. I really love the varied stories that all you are sending my way. I actually think it creates a very like engaging, unique experience when one of two things happen. Either every story is in the same genre and it's like a different type of like story. I know that happened a few weeks ago when they were all like serial killer stories, or when every story is like a different like genre. Like sometimes there's like a romance, a horror, a fantasy, a sci-fi. I think that's cool as well. I think by being able to see different genres and different types, one of the reasons I don't stick to a different specific genre is because I believe storytelling at heart transcends genre, which is why my formattings that I look into, character development, world building, plot, structure, and dialogue, that's going to be the same in any format, any genre, whether you're writing a fiction book about fantasy, dragons, and knights, or whether you're writing a nonfiction story about the time you had childbirth and it was the most craziest moment of your life, right? Regardless of the story, even if you're doing poetry, even if you're doing scripts, all those things are still there. It's just the focus and what we can show is a little different based on the format. So I want to really thank all y'all for sending over these critiques because I have so much fun reading through these. All right, Andrew. So let's say I got your story queued up here. All right, so we got submission for Nightfall on the Haunted Highway by Andrew Scott Hall. So Andrew, what you can see is I basically copy pasted it because you sent me it through the through Facebook Messenger. For some reason, copying pasting from Messenger doesn't like let me just copy and paste it evenly. It has that great undershadowing, which is fine. I can still read it. It actually works. What I would suggest next time, if you want to submit another version, is send it through email it either as a Google Doc or as a Google Doc or a Word document. Or for scripts, obviously, I'll start looking more into Final Draft. I think that's actually very powerful. I have to make sure to include the specific types in my submission requests in the future. All right, so let me drop the banner and comments. Excellent. All right. Okay, and start the timer. So we're at 20 minutes. Make sure all y'all can see it. And then once again, if I'm highlighting, not a bad thing. It's just for my personal notes, so I know what to go back to on the critique. Okay. And all right. Nightfall on the Haunted Highway by Andrew Scott Hall. In the dimly lit confines of a roadside diner, Jake sat hunched over a weathered newspaper, the words blurring together beneath the harsh glare of fluorescent lights. His weary eyes scanned the headlines, each one a grim reminder of the dangers that lurked on the unforgiving highways of Wyoming. And then, like a bolt from the blue, a headline caught his attention. Trucker falls asleep behind the wheel, perishes in fiery crash. His heart skipped a beat. His heart skipped a beat as he read the chilling account of a fellow trucker who had met a tragic end on these very roads. The twisted wreckage of his rig, a stark testament to the perils of sleep deprivation. Trembling, Jake set the newspaper aside, the weight of the article settling like a leaden weight in the pit of his stomach. He knew all too well the dangers of pushing himself past the brink of exhaustion. Yet the relentless demands of the road left him with little choice but to press on. As he nursed a lukewarm cup of coffee, the atmosphere in the diner grew heavy with an unspoken tension. The patrons casting furtive glances at one another, as if sensing the impending storm. It was then that Jake heard it, the whispers of the Goat Man, a legend woven into the fabric of these desolate highways. Jake, a rugged truck driver, found himself unwittingly thrust into the heart of this chilling tale one fateful night. Exhausted from hours of relentless driving and the weight of countless miles behind him, he pushed forward into the inky darkness, his eyelids heavy with sleep deprivation. As the night deepened, The air grew thick with an unsettling tension. The only companion to Jake's solitude being the low hum of his truck's engine. But then, out of the corner of his weary eyes, he caught a glimpse of something not quite right, darting across the road with an unnerving speed. Heart pounding, Jake slammed on the brakes, his truck screeching to a halt on the deserted highway. Trembling, he peered into the blackness, his senses on high alert. But there was nothing, just the oppressive silence of the night and the looming shadows of the wilderness. Shaken, but determined to press on, Jake resumed his journey, the encounter with the mysterious figure haunting his thoughts like a relentless specter. With each passing mile, the suspense built like a tightening noose around his neck, pulling him deeper into the grip of fear. Finally, unable to shake the feeling of unease, Jake pulled into a lone diner nestled on the outskirts of a sleepy town. Inside, the atmosphere was heavy with tension, the hushed whispers of the patrons echoing like ghostly murmurs in the night. Gathering his frayed nerves, Jake approached the counter, his eyes darting nervously around the room. And then, like a bolt from the blue, he heard it, the chilling tales of the Goat Man, recounted in hushed tones by those who claimed to have seen the creature with their own eyes. Fueled by a mixture of dread and curiosity, Jake delved into research about the Goat Man, uncovering twisted tales and obscure warnings that sent shivers down his spine. As the night dragged on, Jake found himself back on the desolate highway, the darkness pressing in around him like a suffocating blanket. Each mile brought him closer to the heart of the mystery, the suspense mounting with every passing moment. And then, in a moment of bone-chilling clarity, Jake saw it, the Goat Man, emerging from the shadows with an otherworldly grace. Frozen in terror, he watched as the creature's eyes locked onto his own, its gaze penetrating his very soul. In a heartbeat, Jake hit the brakes of his truck and lost control, hurtling into the abyss below. As his consciousness faded, a haunting realization gripped him. The darkness seemed familiar, the sensation of following echoing through his mind like a recurring nightmare. Moments later, Jake awoke in a cold sweat, his heart pounding in his chest. But something was different. The diner, the newspaper, the whispers of the Goat Man, they all felt like fragments of a memory he couldn't quite grasp. With a sinking feeling in the pit of his stomach, Jake realized the horrifying truth. This was not the first time he had lived through this nightmarish ordeal. Trapped in a never-ending cycle of terror, condemned to relive the horrors of that night for eternity, Jake's screams echoed in the darkness, lost amidst the howling winds of the haunted highway. An excerpt. Really, really great little ghost horror story there. That was a really cool little I'm calling it a ghost story. It's technically not like it's not ghost, so it's like a haunting story. That that was very, very cool. I feel like I think my favorite part about it was absolutely it was probably the world building, in all honesty. A little bit of the world building mixed with the plot. I feel like the ambiance, the tension, the environment of what you've set up between Jake the truck driver, him and his job and his roadside diners, and then this kind of like myth with the Goat Man is actually like super creepy. And I think that was actually really cool. And then seeing at the very end that Jake's actually just caught in this like never ending, like evil Groundhog's Day, like this loop is actually really scary. I actually liked that ending. That ending worked really, really well for me. So that was actually really cool. And your use of language throughout, like things like Relentless Spectre, is really, really interesting. It was in that Jake heard it, the whispers of the Goat Man. And the way you hype up this character, this Goat Man, is intriguing to me. Like, because the world feels like it's set in the real world, but then the Goat Man, I'm like, what is the Goat Man? Is he like this like evil like demon character? Like, I want to know more about the Goat Man. And I think just by suggesting the myth about the Goat Man, I think it makes it a little creepy. So those are a couple of the things that I really like about it. Let's see. So let me start at the beginning. The world's blurring together. It's interesting when you start with this headline, it almost makes me think that he's the trucker and he's almost reading about his own demise and he's like in some type of like hell. He is an urban, yeah. Okay, cool. That's kind of like the sense that I got. That's awesome. It definitely comes across like an urban legend. That's awesome. Trucker falls asleep behind the wheel. But yeah, this definitely made me think that he's reading about his own demise. Awesome. Oh, the only thing is no quotes. Unless a character is talking, no quotes. I would, when reading something like a newspaper, I want to say that this should be italicized. And I think it would go like this. You don't even need to do that. A headline caught his attention. Like, I think if I were to make this stand out, what I would do is I would do this. I would italicize it like that. So that way, like this clearly stands out like that. That's how I would go about it. But you could also include it in the dialogue, the chapter like this. But as long as this is italicized, that works. And then like a bolt. I might. I think the only addition I would add would maybe give Jake a little more setup about his description. Beyond the fact that he's a what Jake said, he's a truck driver at a diner. I think I might just want to know a little bit more about what Jake looks like, beyond the fact that he's a truck driver. Or maybe is there some type of like defining feature about him? Like in some type of urban myths and this type of storytelling, generally what works very well is there's like the use of objects. What is it? The use of objects that are like very memorable and can become iconic, or something that tethers the character to like what they think is like the real world. So it's like, what is the thing that Jake loves? Does he love his truck? Is there something that tethers him to reality? I see that happen in a lot of ghost stories. For Jake, is there like some type of like necklace, or does he have a picture of like his wife and kids? Horror movies, you see the picture of the family overused all the time, but just something that reminds him of the real world, I would recommend. And I was trying to establish the time loop. That actually makes sense. I think I got the time loop by the end of the story. Let's say, well, I'll get into that in just a second. Let's see what else. Trusted wreckage, parallel sleep, trembling. I think the article itself, you do a good job with the article. That works well. The weight of the article, setting lead and weight. Yeah, I think all this, like you do such a good job of setting up the world. Like this, he's in this like roadside diner. It's super dark at night. And the demo, do you set up? Do you even set up that it's night? I just assumed that it was night. I don't even think you set up the time of the day. Yeah, I would. I might almost set up like the like outside, like the like there's there. It's not. It's a new moon outside, and the sky is pitch dark with something, or it's foggy outside, or some type of thing that references the environment. But you did such a good job of setting up the environment that I had assumed, I'm like, okay, this is like a creepy roadside diner at like midnight in the middle of nowhere. Awesome. Love it, love it, love it. All right, let's see what else. As he nursed a lukewarm cup of coffee, it was then that Jake heard it, the whispers of the goat man, a legend woven into the fabric of these desolate highways. So something else that I want to hear about the goat man. Now, I know you're trying to build suspense with him right now. Let's see. So I know you're trying to build up suspense with him. And that's fine. What I would add is I would add some type of sentence or additional description of who or what is the goat man. It was in Jake, the whispers of the goat man, a legend woven in the fabric of these desolate highways. And I'm like, I'm asking myself, so like I'm wondering if this is subjective. Is it enough to just mention the name of the goat man and then describe him a little later in the story? I think to build tension and to build suspense, I think you want to add some type of like maybe a couple adjectives or just like one additional line of description on why is the Goatman a legend. It was in that Jake heard it that whispers the Goatman, because the Goatman itself, like that's a name right there. A legend woven in the fabric of these desolate highways. I'm just like I'm kind of going back and forth. Does Jake know of the Goatman? So I think that's like my question is like clearly like since this is Jake's point of view, he has to have heard of the Goatman before. It was in that Jake heard it, the whispers. And who did he hear the whispers of the Goatman from? So I almost get the sense that like Jake is like sitting at his table, or he's sitting at the counter drinking his cup of coffee, weathered newspaper, and there's like a pair of strangers, or maybe there's like a stranger at the end of the bar talking to the waitress, and he overhears him talking about the Goatman. And I think maybe it was the whispers of the Goatman. Yeah, I might do something like that, or even just better cementing how he hears the Goatman, and then I could go back and forth on it, on adding a little bit more description. I think that's a subjective choice, because I think the name of the Goatman kind of instills suspense, but the next time we hear Goatman, then we would need to have a little bit more description, because right now the Goatman is a legend woven in these. Yeah, I'm fine with that. That's description's not necessary, but I do need to know where he heard the whispers of the Goatman from. Is he hearing it on the winds? He heard it. Goatman whispered on the wind. I think that would better cement that. And I would cement, is he in the diner by himself? Is there like a waitress? Awesome. Let's see, what else do we got? Jake, a rugged truck driver, found himself unwittingly thrust into the heart of the chilling tale. That works. Darkness. I think you do a good job of your sense of time. I think the sense of time with this story works well, especially because it's essentially a time loop. And I think you do a good job of making it feel timelessly and timelessly looped. I think is the right description. Let's see. As the night deepened, the air grew thick. The companion of Jake solitude being the low hum of the truck's engine, but then at the corner. Does Jake have how does Jake feel about his truck? Since that's his job, does he care about his truck? It almost feels like his truck should get like a little more description of like, this is like my guess is it's his home. Clearly it's probably the thing that he died in, but maybe he has is he connected to the truck in some way, shape, or form? But that's once again another subjective opinion. Tearing across the road. Yep, this was good. The first sighting works. Trembling, he poured in the darkness, but there's nothing. This works. Shaken. But nothing. Just the oppressive silence of the night and the looming shadows of the wilderness. Yeah, I think that works. The encounter with the mysterious figure. His truck screeched into a halt, trembling. He caught, but then out of the corner of his weary eyes, he caught a glimpse of something not quite right, darting across the road with an unnerving speed. Yeah, I think that works because you see something darting. Since he had mentioned the Goatman, we're like, okay, clearly it's the Goatman. Shaken. It's like a wrestler. I like that description, is really good. The suspense built like a tightening noose around his neck, pulling him deeper into the grip of fear. One suspense. Two, got finally unable to shake the feeling of unease. Jake pulled into a lonely diner. Yep, we're back in the diner. And I like that, right? I like that he's like, okay, pulling back into a diner, but clearly it's the same diner. So I think this works well. Hush whispers. So there are whispers of patrons. You set it up here. Jake approached the counter. Once again, he's here, hearing the tales of the Goatman. What I would do is I would actually have him like sitting down, get the coffee, get the newspaper. So it's almost a little reminiscent of like, on one hand, the reader's like, okay, that's his routine. He has to sit down at a diner. He needs to get the newspaper. He needs to get the coffee. but then he hears the goat man again, and then it's like, oh, there's same things happening again. What's up with this ghost man? Let's see, the chilling tales recounted in hushed tones by those who claim to have seen the creature with their own eyes. So I think by this time we need to describe why the ghost, what we need to give some sort of indication of what the tale about the goat man is. I think the first time we mentioned it, it was fine just to say the goat man, but this time I need to get some additional thing of like what either you could either do an account of what people think the creature looks like, or something of like what the creature has been said to do, or something about what like fears, just something that gives us a description of, and really like it's giving us more description about the goatman technically, but really it's building suspense of like, ooh, this goatman's going to like kill him if he sees him again. And then it's going to make Jake think, oh, I just saw the goatman. Feel by mixture during Jake delved. So he delved into research about the goatman. So when you say this, did he dive into the research like on his phone? Uncovering twisted tales. So I would just add the little description like Jake, fueled by a mixture of dread and curiosity, Jake pulled his phone out to research the goatman. Just a little, gives a little bit more research. Uncovering twisted tales and obscure warnings that sent shiver down his spine. So yeah, this would be the time to be like, is there a twisted tale that I would go just a little bit more in depth. You don't have to go too much, but just something that gives us like, what is a twisted tale? And then even this, what you could do is, by hearing about the Ghostman in hushed tones, you could have him overhear something that makes him terrified about the Goatman, which then makes him feel like he has to research. Right now, like it's working, but I think if you give a little more description, it'll up the suspense more. Night dragged on. Jake found, yep. This, once again, your timing works well. The darkness works well. And then in a moment of bone chilling clarity, Jake saw it. The Goatman emerging from the shadows with an unworldly grace. So when we finally see the Goatman, I need description. That's the biggest thing. Obviously he's a goat man. Like all right, we know he's a goat man, but I think you want to create a very like terrifying like description. Perfect example, go read, or I'm sure you've probably seen the movie, possibly It, Stephen King's It. Think about the description of what the evil clown is when that evil clown is like first finally seen. It's a creepy description, and they do a good well of translating it to the screen. I want them to have that same type of sense when we see the goat man. What does the goat man look like? And what about this goat man is terrifying? Because you do a good job of how Jake's reacting to him, and that works well. So he hits the brakes and lost control, hurtling into the abyss, hunting. As his consciousness faded, a haunting the darkness seemed familiar. This is good realization. In a heartbeat, Jake hit the brakes of his truck and lost control, hurtling into the abyss below. As his consciousness faded, I would add just a single description here on basically insinuating that he's dying, right? So you see that the truck loses control. Jake hit the brakes of his truck and lost control, hurtling into the abyss below as the truck smashed against the ground and he died. Or sorry, that's too obvious. That's not a good one. The darkness seemed familiar. Jake hit the brakes of his truck and lost control, hurtling into the abyss below. Oh, I love that description. I love the imagery. Consciousness faded. Yeah, I think it's just some type of description that is clear that he's basically dying. Because right now he's on. I mean, technically he's probably in hell. Earlier, his dad is my guess. He's in this like time loop hell. This ending is good. The darkness, the sensation, that's great. Yep, perfect. Beautiful. Use that. Moments later, Jake awoke in a cold sweat, his heart pounding in his chest, but something was different. The dyna, the news, they all felt like fragments. And this is great. So this is the moment that I realized he was stuck in like a hell time loop. Yeah, I'm thinking of if I had any recommendation for this last part, but Jacob is the diner, the newspaper, the whispers of the goatman. Yeah, and since you're referring newspaper, that's important that they do a newspaper, that he's reading the newspaper at every diner. But yeah, the ending is great. I think from an overall story perspective, I think I think a section I would add another scare moment on the highway. Something I like to use for storytelling is rule of threes. Right now, he has one false alarm with the goat man in the first truck driveway scene, and then the second time he actually sees the goat man. The goat man is what basically causes him to crash and die. Yeah, that works. But yeah, I think what I would do is I think you would add during his first driving of adding like a false alarm moment of like he does have that false alarm where he basically thinks it's the goat man. He sees a figure. I would add maybe like a second time where he keeps driving and he sees like bats or something. Some sort of false um alarm. We'll add like for some reason rule of threes work very well. So I would just add another false alarm moment, whether it's like an animal or whether it's just him being paranoid or something. Like it almost seems like he should like at one point stop and get out of the car for a moment, and then he sees something and it's the goat man, but it's nothing. Go in whatever direction you want, but I think that would make a pack even more of a punch by the time we get to the goat man scene. Ooh, awesome. And Andrew, that's all that I got for you. Really, really great excerpt. I 100% love ghost stories. 100%. This was really cool, and I really want to know more about this goat man now. I'm like, I love the timeless, like stuck in hell, trapped in an eternal time loop because he screwed up. And I'm like, what did Jake do to get trapped in this time hell loop? So yeah, great work, man. Really great work. Good luck with the revisions. I hope this helped out a little bit. Excellent. So let me drop that. All right. Stretch time. Let's. Yep. Atomic. Exactly this classic horror technique. Someone is surprised by something that turns out to be benign, relaxes, then is confronted by real danger. Yep. So that's actually a really good call out. Andrew, have him do you could have him do a false alarm right before the goat man scene, right before he actually encounters the goat man, right? And then the goat man shows up in front of the car, and then that's when he crashes and dies again, right? He's probably died like thousands of times by now. So very good call out, Atomic. Ooh, I do love my horror and thriller stuff. All right, let's see what do we got. All right, so that is a good moment. If you found any value from this stream or from the readings or the critiques, follow and subscribe. Live readings, live critiques every single Saturday. And then the rest of the week, my streams are at daily writing sprints as I keep working on the last scarecrow. And also, if you've gotten value from this, don't leave a tip. I appreciate tips, Venmo or PayPal. I appreciate y'all. All right, so I had to throw that plug. I had to throw that plug in. I'm like, what? I'm mumbling over my words right now. All right, so we got that. I'm gonna hop straight into the next reading. Soul, your story is up. Soul, are you here? If you're here in the chat, Soul, say something in the chat so I know you're here. While I pull your story up. Excellent. Ooh, man. All right, so Soul. Beautiful. So, all right, I'm pulling your story up right now, Soul. Excellent. Wonderful. All right, and we're going here. All right. So, Souls, we got you here. So, if you haven't tuned in to the previous, to some of our previous Saturday readings, we've done a couple numbers or a couple of excerpts of Soul's story, Pirates, which I want to say the first one was Burning Embers, I believe, Soul. Right now, we're going to dig into an excerpt from, I want to say, part 3 from later on down the series, because I know you're trying to make sure that you could rework the part that you're dealing with. And I also want to pull up your comment. Let's see. So this is where you're getting stuck. Keep in mind the actions. Yeah, so right now we're jumping ahead in time to part 3, which is the third book, I believe. This is in part 3, probably 4 to 6 chapters from the end of the book so far. Okay, cool. Thanks for clarifying that. So I wanted to make sure that I was clear. So the part we're about to read is part 3 of Shifting Flame, which is book 2 of the series. So far, the previous excerpts we've read from Pyrates were all from book 1. Awesome. I know. So we were talking, and I'm like, all right, well, let's help you figure out this part that you're stuck with. But I have no clue. Let's see what happens. The next major part is character development. What happens afterwards? Both listed in the, but have no clue how to connect this section to ending up in Brima Atoll. Okay. So what you're trying to figure out is how to connect this one to the next major section. You can do a time skip, but that feels extremely lazy at this point and provides no growth. For Zichia, awesome. Perfect. That gives me a good point of context, so I can keep that in mind as I go through this this excerpt. And I'm assuming that the next section you need to get them to, Brimna Atoll, is a huge plot point in the story. All right. I am ready. So I got this one all pulled up. Wonderful. Okay. And make sure this is big enough. I got my highlighter. And all right, I am all ready. So submission number 5, Pirates by Soul, chapter part 3, chapter 39 of book 2. Shifting Flame. Try again. Delta struck out. An ox leaped back. His lips curled back, and he growled at her. Zichia? Zichia hesitated, but when Ironwood struck her with a thorn, she leaped forward. She leapt. She leapt forward, and Ox followed as she ran at Delta. Zichia was a surprisingly good fighter, but Ironwood insisted she practice against the crew and many other members as well. Delta barely avoided the ice sword as Zichia struck, but smacked her with the flat of her blade as Zichia stumbled forward. Ox took the moment and leapt at Delta. He clamped his jaws down hard, but she shook him off. Sending him rolling across the deck, Zichia stood next to him, an ice sword reforming in her hand quickly. Better, but next time, better. But next time, don't let your mutt attack for you, Delta snorted, glaring at Ox. I am not a fighter, Zichia told her. I do better when someone helps. Delta shrugged and swung out. Ox barely dodged as the sword clipped his ear tip. You need to be able to fight on your own. Zichia shot a look at Ox, who flicked his tail down. She nodded and her sword lengthened, just as she swung at Delta. Ox felt a sting as he watched her. It was just like fighting with Kasai again. Aww. But as if he used ice instead of fire. Her style differed from his, but some weapons she had already formed were similar. Sword, scimitar, and a broadsword. Delta dodged and Ox leaped again, but this time he went for her ankle and was rewarded with a taste of blood. Ah, you bastard! Delta kicked out. Ox yelped and landed against the wall below the quarterdeck. Ironwood, leaning against the railing, laughed. Nice kick, Delta. Ox laid still as Delta approached him. Captain, I think I have an idea for him. If Resora didn't want him, what else can we do with him? Ironwood sounded bored. Ox kept his gaze on Delta, though Zachia ran over and helped him up. Her cold aura helped with some of the aching, though he didn't like the disdain Delta shot at her. What about the pens in Brimna Atoll? She didn't look away from Ox as she spoke. Ironwood gave a strange sounding snort, then burst into laughter. That's not a bad idea. Bring him here. Ox reluctantly limped up to Ironwood, Zachia behind him after Delta prodded him. He refused to lower himself before Ironwood, but flattened his ears. The animal pens of Brimna Atoll are going to be your home once we get there, Ironwood told him. Ox's hackles rose, and he shoved his ears forward, snarling, but Zachia laid a hand on him before he could lunge at Ironwood. She gripped his fur as she spoke. You're going to make him fight? Nice. Nice. I actually really like Zachia's character. And I actually really like that we have the callback to Ox already, as I'm kind of thinking back over this. Wow. Yeah, so first off, so really good job. Thanks for sending up another excerpt. It's actually kind of cool that we get to look a little farther into the series and kind of see at a little different cast of characters. I got so used to Brynner and Sonis and Kasai. Awesome. So let's see, what are we looking at? So I think my favorite parts, I really like Zachia. I really like Ox's character. I can tell, seems like Ironwood is kind of the leader now. Ironwood's the captain as Delta approached him. Ox laid still as Delta approached him. Captain, I think I have an idea for him. Resort don't want him. What else can we do with him? As Delta approached him. Yeah, so Ironwood seems like the captain. Let's see. So I'm thinking about all the characters I have, right? So I have Ox and Zachia, and then I have Delta. I have Ironwood, and then I think there's a fifth one. Delta, Zachia, Ox, Ironwood, Delta. Oh my god, this was my favorite moment. That was so sweet. I'm like, oh, this is a callback to a Kasai. I think that was such a great moment. That's probably my favorite moment in this scene, because we know, or I know from the previous readings, how close Ox and Kasai were. And it's just a cute little callback to it. Okay. So as we go through Zachia, they're fighting. Clearly, Zachia is like an ice character, which is cool. I like that. Delta, Zachia stumbled and leapt at Delta. Ox took the moment and leapt at Delta. He clamped his jaws down hard, but she shook him off, sending him rolling across the deck. Zachia stood next to him, an ice sword reforming in her hand quickly. Delta barely avoided the ice sword as Zachia struck, but smacked her with the flat of her blade as Zachia stumbled forward. Ox took the moment and leapt at Delta. So I think in some of this description, this particular moment, I think it just needs a little more description. I want to make sure I didn't get lost. So Ox leaps at Delta. Ox clamps his jaws down hard, but she shook him off. Is Delta a female character? Or are you referring to Zachia? An ice sword reforming in her hand quickly. Ox took the moment and leapt at Delta. He clamped, but she shook him off, sending him rolling across the deck. Zachia stood next to him, an ice sword reforming in her hand quickly. He clamped his jaws, but she shook him off. Or is this Delta jumping at Zachia? Yeah, so I think I would just add a further description of, is this Delta or Ox? This is even more. Delta is female, so gotcha. You see, I didn't even recognize Delta. For some reason, I pictured Delta as a male character. Okay. Zachio is clearly a female, and clearly because we're also in the middle of an excerpt. Obviously, you've done your setup for the characters already. Gotcha. So clearly this is Ox. He clamped down his jaws hard, but Delta shook him off. That makes more sense. Sending him rolling across the deck. Gotcha. Okay. Delta's a really cool name for a character, by the way. I'm between Delta and Zachia. I love their names. Just had to throw that out there. So something I've realized with your writing, you do a really good job with names. Naming characters is really cool. I was like, I don't think I've ever met a Zachia or a Delta before. That's awesome. Let's see what else, but no, this is cute. This is really good character development. I do better when someone helps, so that's why Zachia and Ox are fighting Delta. Delta shrugged. Just clarify who's speaking in this sentence. Delta shrugged. Ox barely dodged the sword, clipped his ear tip. You need to be able to fight on your own. So this is Ox speaking to Zachia, right? I would just say some type of speech tag to clarify that. Just shut up, look at Ox, flicked his tail. This is such a good moment. Were similar sword scimitar. This time he went for her ankle and was rewarded with the taste of blood. Mm-hmm. So Ox, the way Ox fights is Ox is basically like using his he's basically like using his teeth to bite down to basically chew, right? So he's using his teeth as a weapon. But this time he went for her ankle and was rewarded with the taste of blood. I actually kind of like that. I actually think that's clever. It's like that's his thing. Oh, you bastard, Delta kicked Ox. You helped to land against the wall. Yep. He stuck it in his wolf form. Gotcha. That makes so much more sense. Okay. And I know since we didn't get that, since we went into the middle of a section, then if Ox is in his wolf form, what I would do is, so I would add a little bit more descriptions whenever Ox attacks about wolf-like features, because I think that was something that was missed. You clearly set it up, like clearly we know he's a wolf by this point in the story, but I would just set up some like descriptive features of like as Ox clamps down, his fur is matted with blood or his tail is matted with blood. Just some identifiers, additional identifiers for his wolf form and how differently he's affected as a wolf in this fight. Because that's actually super cool. Like I love that. It's in why he's stuck. Yeah, I think the why is less important. I think it's just more description. I think it's more just descriptive, like action descriptive statements to kind of give us this the sense of how he's affected as a wolf in battle. But that's actually a really cool plot point. The fact that Ox has a wolf form makes me like him even more, honestly. Let's see what else Dr. dodged. Wolf leaned against the railing, laughing. Nice kick all the time. It was fun character development. And then I see what you're doing with you're trying to get the transition to Bremna Atoll. She didn't look away from Ox. So yeah, the fact that he's a wolf makes way more sense then. The animal pins are going to be your home once we get there. Ox tackles Rose and he shoved his ears forward, snarling, but the Chia laid a hand up before he could lunge at Ironwood. She gripped his fur as she spoke. You're going to make him fight? Okay. All right. So I see now. So Brimna Atoll is going to be the next major plot point. Big time. Brimna Atoll is a major location for the story in the world. And clearly Ox, so the characters need to get Ox to the major plot point, probably for him to deal with whatever the next step is in his journey as a wolf. What would be a good transition? I would. You said Zachia is the main character. There's one new character in a location. Some part. The next minute is going. So you said Zachia is the major character, including how Kasai shows up. So we'll get an element of Kasai. So I think what I would do is if you're going to create a transition between here and Brimna Atoll, I think I would focus on character development. I think that's what I would do, because the world building is set up, and clearly Brimna, there's going to be a lot of plot and world building probably in Brimna Atoll is my guess. I would transition the next scene. I would have it focus on character development. And I think what's most interesting is Ox's. Since he just became a wolf, it sounds like he's stuck as a wolf in the last scene. It's in his last chapter why he's stuck as a wolf. Then it seems like that from here, or actually, you could try two things. Either one, do character development for Ox. How does Ox feel, or maybe him trying to get out of his wolf form. Ox is meant to go through a huge character after this, where he has to consider a ton of things about himself and his tribe. Okay, perfect. Then that would actually make sense to throw up some sort of obstacle for Ox. That would be my suggestion. Have Ox face some type of obstacle between this fight scene and their journey to Brimna Atoll, of that something that's going to challenge him. It doesn't have to be a huge thing, since clearly he's going to go through a lot of development when he gets there, but it could be something in early development. You could include, since clearly Zachia is a character as well, or pick one of the characters that you feel needs a little bit more development. So if you feel good about where Ox's journey is, and you feel like there's enough description for him, and or like you feel great about Zachia, pick one of the minor characters that you feel like need a little bit more development and aren't clear yet, and then have an obstacle pitted against Ox, since Ox is like the one that we're focused on right now, and whatever character you want to further develop. Now, when I think of obstacles, an obstacle could be anything mundane beyond like something happens on board the ship that like makes them antagonize each other, or it could be something bigger, like something that they have to overcome. Yeah, that part is pun, but it's in Brimno Atoll. Yep. It's the part from here. Yeah, so it's like I think I would just yeah, so then mhm. Yeah, so I think so without knowing the full story structure, I would use it his obstacles plan, but I can't get him from here to Brimna. Gotcha. Okay. Why his obstacles plan, but I can't get him from here to Brimna? Is it because you're not sure of how to continue? Yeah, I think if this were me and I were focusing on Ox, then I would show him trying to get out of his wolf form, or I would show more of him in his wolf form and how he's like responding to it, because like that's the interesting thing right now. Or I mean, I don't know like how much, since I don't know the full story, I don't know how much he has control over his wolf form, of like what if he like attacks one of like Zachia, or if he attacks one of the pirate crew. Um because it seems like the next part of his journey is, does he have control? Is he still Ox, or is he a wolf? And it seems like that's probably the journey that you're going on, would be my guess. So I would further develop that. Um yeah, without knowing more of the story, I would character develop. I think if I knew I'm not sure how to connect the points as well. For to break weight's keeping him trapped. It's a physical. I'm getting the idea of using him on in the chair, so I offer to break what's keeping him trapped. It's a physical. Mm. Like you're not sure of like how to physically get them there, or like you're not sure like what like plot point to use. Um, mm. or you're not sure, so like how the characters are going to get him there, like, because I mean clearly he's fighting them, and I guess the question is, does he have, what about see her and help him up her cold, or help with some of the aching? She didn't like the disdain Delta shot at her. What about the pens and Brimna Toll? Yeah, so as I'm kind of thinking of this, because I realize this is kind of giving me more questions about it. Um, I I think beyond offering like something like character development for the next part, I think it's harder for me to give an accurate suggestion without knowing the fuller plot. Um, and that's probably the challenge where I'm like, okay, because if I'm trying to figure out a part in the story of like, all right, what comes next, and I don't know, then what I usually do myself is I pull myself back, I look at the outline I have, I look at the beat sheet, and I'm like, okay, so what's missing? Is it character development that's missing? Is it world building? Is there a plot that I can create between the two? Any suggestion is good. Okay. I would say, what if they carry, let me think. Okay. The question I have is how in control is Ox of himself? Is Ox in control of himself and his body and his consciousness in his wolf form? Or is he just this like, or is he just kind of becoming this like feral creature? That would be the one thing that I would need to know. Um, I would say they could lead. Okay, that makes sense. He could switch back if he could, but he's wearing manacles that will physically break him if he changes to human. Okay. Hmm. So he's kind of trapped. Then I get the sense that the characters are. I'm trying to think of some good ideas that come to mind. I think something that comes to mind. So he's trapped in manacles. He has to get to the slave pens, the next Brimna Atoll, that city. Yeah, it kind of just seems like the characters are going to have to then unchain him, and then basically, it almost feels like they're going to have to sedate him or get or freeze him to bring him to the um pens. You know what you should do? Have him break out of the manacles. Have him break out of the manacles, have him try to escape. Um Unless he has to like uh stay restrained, unless that's part of it, but have him try to escape, have him maybe accidentally try to hurt somebody, and then use the chia and her power to confront him and freeze him, do some sort of freezing thing, and then take him to Brimna Atoll. So technically he's still going to be entrapped, but like I think maybe some sort of like escape attempt could add some additional description. And I think it kind of sounds that like the reference to Kasai is a really good reference. Like, so I think the way Kasai kind of seems like anchors Ox to be like a normal character. And I think having some sort of reference again to Kasai is actually really interesting, especially if Ox is like trying to escape, or if Ox is like accidentally fighting against them because he can't control his wolf form. Yeah, I think that'd be my recommendation. Have however he gets to Brimna Atoll, have it be a result of the other characters, them using their powers to some extent. Like Zachia is interesting. Have Zachia use her ice power, or if Delta or Ironwood have powers, like have them use their powers to get or force Ox to go to Brimna Atoll. That'd be my recommendation. Yeah, I think that's what I would do. Yeah, and then I think if it feels like it's unnecessary, like I would write out a scene. I'd write out a scene that gets them from point A to point B. And then in reading the scene, if it feels like it's extra or if it's unnecessary, just do a time jump. That would be my guess. Usually I can offer better suggestion if I was looking at the full plot, because then I would be thinking of like, okay, well, is there a piece of plot that has to happen here? But I think without that, that's kind of the best that I can recommend. Okay. All right. Perfect. Yeah, we'll one off because I feel like so I can definitely help you out and give you some good advice. But I think I just need a little more context. Um, but awesome. That's all that I got for you now, Soul, and we'll one off and we'll chat a little bit more later. Excellent. Oh, but Soul, once again, thank you for bringing that. I appreciate that. I like the action and the character development. I do like now, like talking about it, I want to know like what's going to happen to Ox's character. like I think the fact that we're dealing with a wolf form and now we have Zachia with ice magic is super cool. Thanks again, my friend. Thanks for sharing this. Okay, so where are we at? Okay, so what do I got? Oof. Okay, so let me think. So we're hitting the 3-hour mark. I think my voice is going to be a little toast at this point. So I have a couple more stories. I know. Let's say I got Isabella, Kitan. I know I also have who else? Joelle. I know I got yours and Charlene. My voice is going to be a little too burnt out to keep doing some readings right now since I'm hitting the 3-hour mark, but I'll push off. I'll continue our readings next weekend. If we keep hitting a point where I'm getting too many readings, I'll either do another reading day in the future, or I'll come up with workarounds. But that's what I'm going to do, simply because my voice is a little too toast. Because I want to actually be able to make sure I give you guys really good readings and really good critique. And I kind of feel my editing brain, I feel like hitting that edge. And I want to make sure I can give you guys quality. So with that being said, I'm going to move on. Oh, thank you all for the likes. I'm seeing here. Thank you, Andrew, Aaron, Christine, Debbie. Thank you all for dropping by, and thanks for the likes. I appreciate y'all. So what do I got next? Before I sign off, I'm going to throw up my editing ad. So are you looking for an editor for your next book? Beyond these free critiques and readings that I do every Saturday, I also do editings for novels, scripts, and stories. But I do like the full-on process, right? It includes developmental editing, story editing. I'm like blanking on the words right now. Like he's a great editor. Developmental editing, copy editing, grammar, structure, the whole shebang. In addition to detailed notes. The feedback I've gotten from clients so far has been extremely awesome. And let me just throw up that ad and you guys can see it for yourself. I actually do free critiques and readings for your story every single Saturday on my live stream. My name is sacred. I am Butternut. You want to minimize the chance of a reader being pulled out of the story and being like, wait, what's going on? Forget dropping to the drop zone. I'm dropping you guys now, but drop or die. I would go harder in on the language that you use when describing the technology, the mech, the air units. In a maze of unending grid-laid streets with no avenue of exit in sight, when I wake up from dreaming, sometimes I wake up silently screaming. Add or adjust some of the language so it matches Boschian landscape, mirror world, Shadowland. Or if you're looking to hire an editor for your next book because you're ready to take it to the next level, I do full editing services where I'll focus on character. The man froze for a moment, then nodded. Wolf, me, Wolf. I want to know more about each of the characters. Wolf makes me suspect that he's either father, a pirate, the evil antagonist, like the capricious nature of life's tapestry. You want to highlight and elevate that relationship between the two of you, that meeting moment. World building. I want more of this. Rhyming tone is music to the ears. I saw you're dead inside. That something happened I never knew about. And all those lies, loneliness, and us having to cope with it, relate to it, understand it, or fight against it is a very powerful message. Dialogue. He was surprised that this woman of all people was giving him a pep talk, because sometimes when we have characters who speak too much, it's easy for someone to tune out if they're reading it. And this is a really interesting world, and I don't want people to tune out on your work. And structure. Ben jumped up a little disoriented and grabbed his gun. Running to the stairs, he heard men yelling, "Who else is down there?" During this shootout, I would just add a little more detail, make this a little longer, because this shootout is fun. This is like the action sequence of like, kill the bad guy, pow pow. So that way your book will be all ready to be published. And let's take it to market. Awesome. So there's my little editing ad. The next time that you have the next draft of your story or script, I offer all the services. You can check it out on my website for more information. The Creative Ghost. I should probably do it correctly. Perfect. So I threw that up. thecreativeghost.com. Hop on my website. You can check out more information about me, what I do, and the services that I offer. So definitely check it out. Let me know what you think. And if you have any questions or you want to know more, I'm here. I'm here live every single day. I have way too much fun doing these live streams. I want to take this moment to just give a shout out to you. Thank you for dropping by. Thank you for giving your stories. And I really appreciated a lot of your comments today. I really, really value that some of you were able to share more of what you're thinking. And it just makes it more of an engaging experience, not just for me, but for anyone who puts their story out there. So thank you. That's incredible. I hope you got some entertainment out of each of the readings. And I hope that for each of the stories I did get through, that the feedback was helpful for you, because that's what I care about. My goal is to help you become a better writer and for you to help improve your stories. So that way you can get what you want, whether your goal is to publish it and put it out to the world, or whether you're just trying to build on your portfolio, or whatever your goal is. I'm here as a support. So thank you all for that. And my next show, I'll be up tomorrow. I can throw up that banner. Let's see. That does not look good. Here we go. So my next show tomorrow, my normal banner, I'll be up at 2 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Feel free to come join me. I will probably do a little more writing because I'm eager to get to the midpoint. I think if I have a full show worth of writing, I think I can get there. So I actually feel pretty confident. If you've been joining on my stream so far, and you know how the journey of the last Scarecrow, Crow, and Pebble, what is the midpoint? Because we're finally going to get an introduction into the magic of the world and a taste of what is the nothingness. So that'll be in the midpoint. Come drop by tomorrow if you kind of want to see. I should be able to get there tomorrow if my writing senses allow me to. If I didn't get to your story today, I'll one off with you after, and I'll add it on for next week's show. Awesome. And don't forget, hit that like button on your way out. Let me know that you got value and that you enjoyed the stream. I appreciate y'all. That's all that I got for you today. I'll catch you on the morrow. And remember, words are wind, but stories are forever. Later, Adder.